Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Becoming Human podcast. For those of you who normally watch my videos, you know I'm normally outdoors, but it's raining. It's a raining day, so we get to hang out together in the studio, which is also one of my favorite places to be. So this should be a whole lot of fun. So you know, I'm part of a number of different groups that concentrate um, on behavior change and addiction as it pertains to food primarily, but any type of addiction is just simply a deeply um, ingrained behavior pattern that's difficult to break. It's become kind of habitual. So just I started connecting some dots through, a few different things in my life and some things that I've been exposed to. And today's episode is going to be, me, explaining some of those connections, some of those dots that I've connected. And I just hope that it resonates with whoever it needs to resonate with. Um, most of what I talk about is drawn through my own personal experience, and I try and look for references to help corroborate that. So, um, it can have an impact, and if someone's in that state where they're ready to make a change, then hopefully, this information could help someone in that process. So, getting started. So, taking a American history class. You class typically starts off with American history beginning in the 1400s, primarily with Christopher Columbus and Queen Isabella and the whole slew of cast members from that period. The interesting part about this is kind of at the center of what eventually became the Americas as we know them today is kind of food, in particular herbs and spices and things that could be considered a delicacy, as well as fabrics and but a lot of luxury items. But food was kind of at the center of this, and it was actually Europe's desire to get these luxury goods at a cheaper price or get directly to the source was in perfect alignment with, let's say, Christopher Columbus's desire to find a new route to India, and which he ultimately ended up, landing in the Americas. He died thinking it was India, but that's neither here nor there. The main point I'm trying to make is food was kind of at the heart of this. Europe had been through a lot of things, some famines, plagues. A large part of the population was malnutrition. Only people who were well off were able to pay for these goods that were being imported from India and China and other places in the East. So just a very important note I wanted to make right there as it pertains to food. So moving forward, connecting the dot. I was listening to a lecture. It was a Ram Dass lecture, pretty old one, and he talked about visiting his guru, his teacher in India, and this guru would always stuff everyone who visited him with tons of food, and a lot of it would be pastries and refined sugars and stuff that would just blow you up really quickly. And Ram Dass said one of the students um, who were there also, who's there also, asked the guru, like, "Hey, why are you um, filling us with all of this stuff, stuffing us with all of this stuff? It's not good. Um, what are you doing?" And the guru replied, "I'm not feeding your body, I'm feeding your soul. If you knew how many incarnations you've had where you've died of starvation, then you would understand this void that you have within you, this desire that you can't seem to fill, this hunger that you can't seem to fulfill." And that really struck me in a number of different ways because I know with dealing with different addictions and PTSD and things like that within my life, and just working with a lot of folks also, most people don't know where their behavior patterns come from. Um, to a lot of people, they've just kind of always been there. They have some idea that environment influences things like that, but there's deeply ingrained behavior patterns that all of us have, and we're not necessarily cognizant of. So that story, really struck me in a number of different ways. So I want to connect another dot, and this one has to do with the subconscious. What is the subconscious and where's the subconscious? So, for many years, I've been, kind of reprogramming myself through different practices without, say, truly understanding, what I was reprogramming. I knew it was my subconscious, but I didn't really know what my subconscious was, and yet it was still working. And a lot of the books that I read would speak to subconscious, but it would be very vaguely, and you wouldn't quite understand what it was. It could be something out there or whatever. So indigenous cultures and different cultures around the world talk about this thing called um, the body mind, and that your mind is in your entire body, not just in your head. Your mind is in your cells, is your DNA, it's in your blood, is in a form of memory. Every aspect of you has a memory, and that's what allows you to exist. You remember to wake up in the morning, you remember to breathe, your heart remembers to beat. A lot of these things happen independently of you. And this is, again, the subconscious. So, I want to read, I did a lot of research to just kind of make some points for the sake of this conversation. But I want to read a quote that I kind of came up with that summarizes kind of what I'm saying, and then we can dive into it more. So the quote says, um, the subconscious isn't just the brain, it's distributed through the nervous system, the muscles, fascia, gut, and even cellular response. The body itself is a living substance, or the body itself is a living subconscious, expressing stored experiences, habits, and implicit memories without needing conscious permission. That's the key part, without needing conscious permission. I'll say that again, without needing conscious permission. So the cells in your body, your muscle, we're all familiar with muscle memory. You do something enough times, um, then it becomes a habit, right? And it happens automatically. It happens subconsciously, right? I remember playing basketball growing up. I would go to the gym and shoot and practice so much that when I found myself on a basketball court and in a similar scenario, the moves would just happen with almost no input from me whatsoever. And that's consistent with a lot of other athletes that I know that I'm friends with who gotten really good at a particular part of their craft. They say the same thing. When they find themselves in that situation, um, it's thoughtless. They just instinctively know what to do. They feel things differently. They feel more connected, more in tuned, and they just automatically make the right play. And so this is a example of how people program themselves that we're all familiar with. All of us have watched an athlete or an actor, right? Same thing. Actors are experts at doing it, but I'm more familiar with the realm of an athlete, so I could speak to that and speak to that personal experience. Okay, so let me jump in a little bit more. So when we talk about the body as a memory system, right? Um, I want to talk about, muscle memory. It's called procedural memory. Skills like walking, playing an instrument, or martial arts are stored in the body um, through the basal ganglia and cerebellum. These memories bypass conscious thought. The body knows even when the mind doesn't recall step by step. So the body knows even when the mind doesn't recall step by step. All right. So I got to be honest. I was very aware of a lot of these concepts, but what really planted the seed of the subconscious being in the body and really prompted me to shift my research in a different direction was working with Elitom. And, he had this concept of, or this idea that, if we break down the word subconscious, sub means below. And if we acknowledge that our mind is up here, our consciousness is up here, right? Then the subconscious has to be below that. And when you start to look at a larger body of research and evidence and history and also teachings, it starts to become really clear that this memory, the subconscious mind, is within the body, just like a lot of ancient cultures were saying that I mentioned earlier about the concept of the body mind. All right. So let's visit this from the lens of trauma. So trauma is often stored in the body through muscle tension, postures, nervous systems, and hypervigilance. All right. So a way I like to think of this is, if we look at, say, meditation, for an example, or breath exercises, or yoga or qigong, all of these exercises at their essence are calming your nervous system, relaxing your vagus nerve, engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. And I like to think of that as a pair, you and your body working together. So it helps me remember what a parasympathetic nervous system is. All of these exercises are helping you engage your body in a way that allows you to be alert but yet relaxed. And when we store trauma in the body, it comes in a form of tension, tension stores, um, trauma within the body. It locks it in, and relaxation releases it. Okay, so our autonomic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, rest, social engagement runs below awareness. The body's state shapes perception, emotions, and thoughts, effectively acting as subconscious programming. So this research was done by Basil van der Kolk, and I'll release his credentials, and I'll release the credentials of all of the people who've done all of these research projects. I'll put those in the description so everyone could go and look these people up and look the research up themselves, and learn a little bit more. But more importantly, understanding this research helps you engage your body in a different way. And this is the whole point, engaging our bodies in a different way so we understand where our behavioral patterns come from, where our addictions come from, where our habits come from, so we can approach them in a way that's not met with resistance, right? The easiest path, that's how your subconscious is operating. It believes it's making life easy for you because it's giving you the path of least resistance, even if that path is simultaneously making life difficult for you externally. It's just what's familiar. So you have to reprogram and give it another familiar program that's in alignment with the experience that you want to have in life. Okay. So let's jump into embodied cognition. Cognitive science is shifting from the brain is the mind to the mind as embodied. Cognition theory, our bodily sensations, movements, and interactions with the environment shapes thoughts at a subconscious level. Examples: warmth in your hands, feelings of social warmth, posture of confidence, feelings of confidence. Okay, so again, this kind of taps into what we were talking about before, but I really want to hone in on the um, importance of some of the exercises that I talk about a lot, because a lot of this research is addressing that postures, right? What is yoga? What is qigong? It's engaging your body in a way that allows you to hold a series of postures. In these postures, over time, sometimes in your first time, but over time, when you engage your body in this way and you do these postures, you feel your energy, your blood, oxygen flowing in places that you may not have felt before. And you can also feel where some blockages are. You can feel where there's energies flowing, where your blood is flowing, and then you can feel where the intensity kind of roll off a little bit. And so as you become more familiar with your body, this becomes a sign that you need to engage some aspects of yourself a little bit more and a little bit better. So this allows you to be in tune and stay, tapped in with your body. And so this is how this is speaking to me. And another way to get into your body is through your breath. So when you engage in these exercises and you do deep breathing and you create oxygen-rich environment in your blood, now all of a sudden your cells are replicating in an environment that's highly conducive to homeostasis. And this will ultimately improve your health over time and also improve your perception because your hormones will become more balanced because, again, your cells are being born into a highly oxygen enriched environment, which is more conducive for health, which is conducive for health. All right, so let's move along. The gut brain axis. All right, so we have 200 million neurons in the gut communicating with the brain via the vagus nerve. I love the vagus nerve. When I learned about the vagus nerve, I became obsessed with it because it was one of those things that I immediately noticed a difference in my mood when I learned how to engage my vagus nerve in a way where I would stimulate it and then calm it down, stimulate it, then calm it down. And this will prime me to engage in tough situations and be more responsive as opposed to reactive, throughout my life. And this is super, super, super huge for bridging gaps, especially with people who you may find difficult in your life. You become more patient, and then ultimately you become more patient with yourself, which, you know, works huge in terms of bridging gaps with people. A lot of times you may think it's them, but it could very well be how you're perceiving their behaviors because I keep in mind that even a person that causes me the most challenges, they're beloved by somebody or somebody thinks they're awesome, whether it be at work or somebody in passing. So I could expand my perception in a way to engage in a different way that could uh, bring about a better relationship. And me engaging my vagus nerve was huge. It was huge in me being able to put myself in situations that were stressful, but me and around people that were stressful, but me being able to hone my energy in a way that didn't add to that stress, but brought us closer together. So back to the gut. Gut bacteria influences mood. This is what we were just talking about. Cravings, even decision making. Many subconscious urges, like I'm feeling hungry, or a phrase that we always say, I have a bad feeling in my gut, comes from the gut, right? Comes from those neurons in the gut, to be specific. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of people aren't completely sure where their desires or their habitual patterns come from. Like they may have some type of idea, they may know that environment is contributing, but they aren't really sure as to where it's coming from exactly. And so, again, understanding your body and from all of these different perspectives can help you engage in a different way. When I was getting out of the Marine Corps and I was going through, alcohol abuse and addiction, one of the things that surprised me was one of the things they taught you going through some different therapies and different programs was that if people in your family um, drank alcohol, then you were more susceptible to um, being addicted. Why? That information was genetically passed. It doesn't mean you have to become addicted. You could alter that as I um, obviously did or ultimately did, but you are born with that memory. So when you engage, when you indulge, your neurons just hop online. Like they're like, oh, we know what this is. Hey, welcome back. Um, so you're more susceptible to becoming an addict, and that goes for food, and that goes for any type of behavioral pattern, so to speak. So that's why it's so important to practice these things. And have them be a regular routine in your life. So, when you do have children, again, they're being born with a slightly different programming than the one you may have been born with, if that's something that you want to fix. When I could speak to when you start to do these practices more and more and start to engage your body in these ways with different disciplines more and more, I can say like for a period, it was really difficult for me to be in crowds. I really had to isolate myself. And in some ways that could become unhealthy too. But it allowed me space to practice and practice and build a new program and build a new program. And I had to stay persistent, even though this isolating myself was stressful to people who were around me. But one day the patterns were just gone. I walked outside. I was in a crowd, and there was no PTSD. I could be around people doing their habits, and it didn't tempt me to partake. It didn't trigger me. There wasn't an urge. And so these things were present in my mind until they wasn't. But I did build a lifestyle around practicing how to rebalance my nervous system. I did surround myself with tons of reminders that reinforced the behavior that I wanted to have in my life. And whenever I found people who were engaging themselves in healthy ways, I made sure I was a student, and I approached them with an open mind, and really just practiced opening my heart, and that took practice, um, and um, and that took physical practice, right? That wasn't a psychological thing. That was me putting forth effort and engaging my body in a way that gave me a different sensation, so I could put myself in stressful environments, but still feel the energy that I've been, manifesting, that I've been cultivating, that I've been harnessing and building up and storing over this time. So, you know, this episode kind of came from a number of different angles, but ultimately, it's encouraging us to the goal is to encourage us to engage our bodies in a different way than many of us may be accustomed to, so that we can start figuring out how to make those transformations within our lives. You are having your own experience, right? So at a certain point, you have to be the one to engage yourself. An external source or someone else can only do that to a certain extent. I understand the challenges and the difficulties that you face with engaging yourself. And I also know that it does take courage. And courage is an exercise. It's a muscle that you build. Some of us have a little bit more than others to start with, but it's a muscle that we build, and everyone's capable of strengthening their muscles, right? And everyone's capable of strengthening that muscle. So, like always, I hope this message reach whoever it needs to reach. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And, if in any way, anything that I gain or experience, if I feel like it can be of use and help someone enhance their experience of life, I'm more than happy to share. All right. So thank you very much. And I hope you have a wonderful day.